So my initial idea was to use that, the 40D, but then I know I've still got the 7D kicking about. Here's the 7D, and the kit, almost kit lens I guess, is off the 40D, and that's just a standard plastic 28-90 kit lens. Not very good really. So I gave it a bit of a clean, dug out the old 4GB extreme cards, and tried to cajole my dogs onto the back garden so I can take some nice pictures of them. All the best laid plans. A couple of things happened. Firstly, every time I opened the door to take them out, it pissed it down with rain. Don't want to be taking pictures in that. A, because it's not good for the cameras, and B, I don't like rain. And also, the dogs wouldn't do what I want them to do. Of course not. You know, they're two labs, they just want to go out and play, roll in the shit, not sit down, not stay still. So trying to get two comparison pictures where I can compare the two pictures side by side proved to be a lot trickier than I'd expected. But I did get a couple in the end. So the biggest part of today's episode is going to be me running through a tutorial to show you guys how I approach, or how I would approach, I do approach editing all files, whether they're brand new files that off the camera I only bought 18 months ago, the R6, or whether they're off the 7D from 3 million years ago. It wasn't 3 million years ago really, was it? Although it feels like it. I'm going to talk you through the process. Now the process I use today is one that I learned around 2009, and I modified it slightly over the first few years of using it, but probably for the last 12, 13, maybe even 14 years I've used exactly the same process for editing my raw files. And that helps because it means that all the stuff I do in camera, the shoot process, I know when I'm shooting what I need to do to complete the pictures. And it's not because I'm crap, it's not because the camera's crap, although it is a little bit of that to be fair. It's because digital cameras, and you'll see this here, even between a modern R6, which is 18 months old, and a semi-modern 7D, which is 15 years old, there's still a bit of work to do from camera to completion. So I shoot with that in mind. I always slightly underexpose my pictures because I think that's where the information and the good stuff is. If you overexpose it, you're always kind of semi-stuck with something that you don't want. So I slightly underexpose because I know my process in Photoshop can just bring out the best from my camera stroke digital sensor stroke whatever it is. But you'll see as I go through these pictures that I've shot with Canon all the time because the people I kind of hung out with when I got into photography shot Canon, so I kind of followed them. Got nothing against Sony, Nikon, all them other companies. Just like Canon's stuck with it, to stay with it. Lenses kind of came with me, all that kind of stuff. So that's why I'm shooting Canon. But one thing, and you'll have seen me say this in previous podcasts, that the quality of colour on the Canon's not great. Example would be colour calibrate in the studio, take the shot, look at the raw file. It's slightly off. It's not what it said it was on the tin. And you'll see today between the two cameras how the colours, even if you put them on the same setting, sunlight for example today, you'll see quite a big colour shift difference when we get them into Photoshop. So bearing those things in mind, what I'm looking to achieve today is to get a picture off the 7D 15-year-old camera with a standard really cheap plastic lens, which is probably about 100 quid new. You could probably buy that camera and that lens now for probably 150 quid, something like that. I'm going to compare it to what I took on the R6, which is recording this podcast, with a L series 24-105 lens, and to see the differences. And I did actually take a shot at the end with the 7D with the 24-105 L series lens off my 6D, just to show you a comparison in difference in sharpness, even on an older body with a good lens. So that's where we're going today. And we'll start then by looking through the pictures. I had a quick look earlier. I did these around lunchtime and then I had an hour to kill, so I had a quick look through and picked a couple that I thought would be great, but maybe I've instantly forgot which ones it were I was looking at. I should have just not deleted the temp files. But looking at them, the test shots are mostly done outside. You can see pictures of Clover and Paddy here, our two lovely dogs. We'll have a look at the one of Paddy laying down first because he's a superstar. So the last one I took on the 7D with the kit lens is this one here, 1711. So I'm going to open that up into Camera Raw, Photoshop Camera Raw, and see what we get. Now, straight off the bat, it's not too bad, is it? I mean, strangely enough, even though I was focusing on his face, just for reference as well, I just used single point focus center on both cameras, so I didn't use any trickery to move focus around. I literally just set center focus on both cameras and aimed at the dog's eyes and then repositioned to get the shot. So both were shot at the same time. Sorry, both were shot using the same focal point, same focus approach. Both were shot at the same pretty much focal length and the same f-stops that I could get with the lens. There's a couple of stops difference, I think, because the cheap lens can't quite do what the expensive lens can do, but the exposures are roughly the same. You'll see that as we go along. So here's a picture of our pup Paddy. So what I'm always looking for is whether I exposed and underexposed, and you can see from this, Paddy's got a nice mix of exposure. I mean, the ball's a little bit blown out of the back because it was sat in the sun. Not worried about that. I'm looking at Paddy here. So the thing about Paddy is the blackest dog you'll ever meet, is the darkest furred animal I've ever seen. And you know, there's an old saying in photography: if photographers could have a colour darker than black, they'd have it. Well, I think we found it with Paddy. So as you can look here, look, he's as black as the proverbial ace of spades. He's extremely black in colour. So we're going to lose, if we're not careful, a bit of detail. If I bring the exposure up, you can see, like, to see his belly and his chest, we lose the highlights. We don't want to do that. That's the last thing we want to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the highlights so I can bring some midtones back in his fur. So if we whack all the highlights off, look, you can see we've reduced a lot of potential overexposure around his back end and on highlights on his nose and on his bone. If I just show you that again, if I go back to 0, and then you see his bone's quite heavily exposed, overexposed. If we reduce that, it's gone. It's probably a little bit too much for this exercise, so I'm going to hit it I'm going to click in the highlights and just reduce it down to 70, because then we've still got nice highlights in it, and I know I can bring some more back if I want to without ruining anything or losing anything. So Paddy's there, but then what I want to do is bring the shadow tones back in, because obviously he's black and you can't see any detail down here on his belly, on his legs. His legs look like they just appear. So if I look at the shadows, if I wang all the shadows on, look at all that detail that comes back. I'll switch that off again. See that? But I don't want that much. I probably want about 70%. Let's just go back to 70 and see what that does. That's actually not too bad. It's probably just breaking a little noise on his fur there. So I'm just going to reduce that to 60. I can always pick this up again later if I want. So all I'm doing here so far from an exposure point of view is I'm not changing the exposure. We've got ISO 100, f10, 125th of a second. Pretty decent for outdoors. I've taken 70% off the highlights and I've added 60% shadowing just to bring that exposure back. Remember, your camera can only see what you tell it to see. It can't see everything. It can't see every zone of light. So you kind of got to get an average. And then you can use the raw file to bring things back, just like you used to do in the darkroom, you know, using chemicals or processes to bring detail back in. So I'm actually, right at this point, quite happy with that. The only other thing I'm going to do is check the colour. Now remember, I said to you, white balance can be all over the place with Canons. Doesn't actually look too bad. I'd expect to see those colours there, red, green and blue, with a red, green and blue summer's day, with the foreground here and the green in the background of the orange panel. So not worried about that. But if we just go to auto, see that drop? It's quite substantial. And if we go to daylight, so if we go between as shot and daylight, you can see that as shot is a lot warmer. And I think that's probably too warm for what I was actually looking at in the garden. So I'm going to go with daylight, because that feels to me more like what I was looking at when I took the picture of Paddy. I'm going to open that up. We'll look at the JPEG now. Having to drink black tea today because I forgot to bring any milk, so that'll teach me, won't it? So you can see now that's a picture of Paddy. It's quite nice, isn't it? 15-year-old camera, 80 quid lens. It's in focus. It's sharp. Yeah, not bad at all, really, for what it is. If we 100% it, there you go. Not bad at 100%, is it? So that's picture one of the 7D of Paddy Dog. I'm now going to look at the 5D pictures, which luckily I've left the thingy so it was. I'll just get rid of that because I don't want to preset anything. The last one of the day, which we took, was him. So again, just a reminder, this is with an 18-month-old Canon R6 mirrorless with a L series 24-105 lens. If you look at the settings, ISO 100, f10, 125th of a second, just the same as the last shot. You can immediately tell there's a difference in colour. This is nothing like as saturated as the 7D was. We'll look at that in a bit. But again, we've got the similar issue where Paddy is dark, extremely black. So again, I'm going to reduce the highlights. Only this time, I'm not going to have to take as much off because it looks like the R6 is like not really gone overboard on the highlights, even though it's the same settings. Potentially that's the quality of the lens difference, but we've not ruined anything, so I'm not worried. And again with shadows, the last one, did I do 70% or 60 on the last one? So let's go right up to, there you go, far too much for Patrick there. 60. Probably going to hit around 40%. So I've done the same two things on the different files, just not quite as much on the R6 file. Probably because of the quality of lens difference, collecting the light in a better way. And again, I'll just show you through the colour balance. Auto did that. That's exactly what the 7D did. Daylight, slightly nicer. So as shot, daylight, as shot. So on this one, daylight is slightly punchier than the as shot one. So conversely, on the first one, I swapped it to daylight because it was a bit more realistic. On this one, I'm going to do it the other way around because I think that's more realistic. Let's have a look side by side, see how they look. Okay, so let us see. Oops, I didn't mean to do that, Paddy, sorry boy. Okay, so let me get both files out here. So you can see view, fit to screen, and that will view that fit to screen as well. And then we'll just try and view them side by side. It's difficult when I got two monitors running. So you can see on the two pictures there how they're very similar. The colour tones are slightly different, but we could, if we wanted to, go into either one of them. We can go back into the raw file if we want and just adjust a little more. But you can see the one on the left is slightly greener than the one on the right. And if we look at the histogram up here, they're very similar. There's just a bit more yellow and green on the left one, and you can see that visually, can't you? So that's not a big surprise. But in terms of look, condition, exposure, pretty similar. Pretty similar. I think the Canon 7D, the older shot's got a little bit more black in him here than what Paddy has here. But we can tweak that anyway. So the first thing I always do from this point on is just check. I just check in the exposure by looking at levels and just making sure these are good. Now they are. The details all the way over to the left for the shadows and all the way over to the right for the highlights, which is good. If we look at this one and go levels, we're the same again. We're all way over there. We've just got a bit more shadow on that one. I think I'm right in saying.